So this is the Neighborhood Food Network portion of the call. This is a program which we invite you to initiate on your block to create a parallel food system, one street at a time. And we support neighbors to connect and empower each other to grow their own food, support local small farmers, and get prepared in case of times of crisis, and be independent of the current toxic food system. And another way we're gonna summarize this up. If other people come up with other taglines, this is the pilot program of the Neighborhood Food Network. You notice a little Facebook button down there, by the way. We have a Facebook page now. And what we've come up with is the Neighborhood Food Network is creating national food security one street at a time. How do you guys like it? You like that? Okay, so it's just like a smaller tagline. So then people will ask, wow, how are you doing that? And we're doing that by inviting, if you can scroll down, Ann, we invite, inspire, and excite people to, yeah, I don't think I have that here. Yeah, invite, inspire, and excite people to empower their neighbors to grow food locally and create national food security one street at a time. So yes, we have the benefits from the Neighborhood Food Network on here, and we invite all of you who are on this call and all of the, I believe we've had 145, maybe close to 160 or something people sign up to instigate the Neighborhood Food Network on their street. Now, it looks to me like that USDA People's Garden program was like trying to, somebody mentioned this, trying to hijack the Neighborhood Food Network, right? And say, hey, all of you people who are starting gardens, just register with us. And we want to make something very clear. We want your email here so that we can communicate with you about the Neighborhood Food Network. And we do ask the facilitators to give an address where we can mail you free seeds. That's it. We're not asking every single, facilitator who's on the street to register every single person on their street, right? So that everybody knows where all these gardens are. In fact, in a time of crisis, you may not want to have it be public that you have, a giant garden. You may want to, have that garden for your family. And we understand that, but we are fostering an environment of compassion and sharing. So we do encourage you to share. It's just, that's up to you. That's your private information. So we are not asking people to do that. Okay, so Jill is saying she volunteers at a community garden, which donates the fresh produce to the community area ministries. We would love seeds. Okay, that's great. So if you sign up to be a Neighborhood Food Network facilitator on your street, this is not just for a community garden. This is that you are going to go door to door to your neighborhood, your neighbors, or Carol from California started a Facebook page for her area. And she has 60 people now in her group. She says every day she has invitations or is sharing with people. She's gotten peaches and raspberries and apples. She's got more food than she knows what to do with. And so now she's learned how to can stuff. So she's canning all these peaches. So if somebody says, oh, I have plums, she's like, oh, I'll trade you some canned peaches. Right. So she's got more than she knows what to do with. She's having a fabulous time. I really encourage you, if you have not started this on your street yet, to just print out our flyers, walk down the street. Starting to get cooler now. It's not so hot. You have no excuse. Go to take a walk on a Sunday or a Saturday morning and put these flyers underneath people's doors or knock on their doors and meet them. You will be fabulously surprised when you meet your neighbors at how nice people can be. Like I know like the biggest hurdle I think we have to get over is people saying, well, I don't want to meet my neighbors. They could be crazy. Right.
Well, I don't,
right? That's the biggest hurdle.
I live in an area that's like I said before, I'm in the north side of Milwaukee, which is not the best area, and there's 66 houses on my street, and so I was a little bit wary, but it turned out that everybody I met was super nice. And I've actually I've actually expanded just a little bit to a side street because I told Zen I actually accidentally knocked over somebody's mailbox and ended up spending a half hour in their backyard with them. And they're very interested in this. So I'm going to be going down there and bringing them some more information. But I have not met anybody who does not agree with me that this is not a great idea and that this needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Everybody I talked to about this, I've been networking here in Asheville and meeting people. I've got this week, I had a financial expert. He's got a child that's 2 years old who's very concerned about the future, right? And food security. And he's introducing me to 12 different people this week, big players like Lowe's and Home Depot and Bank of America and people like that. And those, I hate to, for people who don't want corporations to be involved, but these are some of the types of, people who would sponsor this group and I mean, this program. And because they're also the ones that would benefit. So we figured out if we had 8 different garden zone experts, right? So that you could sign up for a call for your garden zone. So you're not going to be hearing information about when to plant tomatoes in Maine if you live in Arizona, right? So going forward, we want to have calls for those garden zones so you can jump on a call and get from the experts, what do you need to do this week, today, for your garden? And if we get the funding for that and we're able to push this program out and also do things like have street signs up. So if a street wants to donate food to a local food bank, they got like, this street neighborhood food network is growing for Asheville Mana Food Bank, right? So that street is designated as a street that's donating to a charity. Now it's, they're not giving out specific addresses, but it's, just like adopt a highway type thing. Anyway, if we get funding for those types of initiatives, people expanding gardens, people, creating local food security. And let's just say there were 200 facilitators in each state over time, over maybe a year or two or something like that. Then if those 200 people had only 10 people on their street start to grow more food, and each one of those people spent $500 a year on gardening supplies, which, hello, Anne, that's highly feasible, isn't it? Yeah. Then we would cause a $75 million increase in sales to gardening supplies. So I think some of these places like Home Depot and Lowe's and Armstrong, they should support this initiative. Don't you think? Yeah. So many states have master gardeners that would want to be involved that are volunteer. So this is a program that I think its time has come. It needs to happen. And the people who benefit from it should support it, right? Like the gardening centers and Home Depot and Lowe's and all those kinds of things. So can we have Mons Williams image? I don't know. It's just, we can't see her face. Can we have that changed?
Oh, Mona, yeah.
Oh, Mona, did you have a question, Mona? We can't see your face.
I was just going to see if you had time to hear about Ellensburg, because I've been doing the neighborhood food network in my own way this summer.
So tell us about what's going on in your area.
Well, on July 9th, I had the brochure. I went down Matthews Road in Ellensburg, Washington, and I handed it out. If they were home, I talked a little bit to them, telling them what I was doing. And most of them weren't home, so I just slid the brochure under the door or wherever I could. And on July 9th, I think I had 10 people from the block come.
Great.
Yeah. And we're on a little over an acre land at every house. So, there's no reason why people don't have room or, a little space, right? So I was surprised to find out that many of them have gardens, or they couldn't do it this year because they had, 2 little kids and the new job and whatever, But everybody came to the house on July 9th, were really, really interested. And I didn't talk about, like the future of why. It was the price and the gas price. To get decent food is really getting harder and pricier.
Mhm.
And then I got really sick, and I have been sick for the whole summer. So
Oh, so sorry.
I'm feeling much better now. But what my husband and I are planning to do, and we grew the garden. We both retired really first time, and Kelly had to pretty much take over. But anyway, we're giving out. It was right when our beautiful cherry tree. Everybody said, "Oh, you'll never get cherries." We had so many cherries. It was so perfect. So we gave them. I walked around. I gave them out. Kelly did, and we gave everybody cherries when they came over with bagels and fruit, right? And everybody is so nice and so supportive. And then I got sick, and I didn't get everybody's address, but a few people called me and said, well, I have this, and I didn't even have the emails all sorted out from the July 9th. It was, so anyway, we are still trying to talk. Everybody's busy. I try to communicate about, the neighborhood. They said, oh, I'm so busy, state rodeo's coming and da, 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 da. So that's good. I just want to get to know them and get really close to showing them what a great garden we did first year retired old people. And I contacted local farmers at our farmers market. Several of them, were like, wow, that's a great idea. So I have gotten no negative, no go away.
No negative responses. Yeah, very good.
No, and
Okay,
it's
I
possible
would
for
just,
anyone to do it.
right, and just encourage you to continue, keep your camera still, Mona. We're still on
Okay.
you. Please keep it still. Okay, thank you. I get motion sickness very easily. I can't see things.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So, so I would encourage you to stay in communication and have specific requests for people.
Mhm.
Okay, like who can share seeds, or do you know how to share seeds? Do you want to learn how to share seeds? Or who has extra coffee grinds that you can donate? Like if you don't have a garden, can you be somebody that gathers your coffee grinds, especially if it's organic coffee grinds? And if they have
Or
questions,
grass
why they're gonna
clippings,
what's that?
Oh, yeah. for
grass
compost, right.
clippings.
Okay, grass
So
clippings or
we
something.
live
So
in
have,
grasslands, and there's no problem with grass around here. So that's great.
yeah. So reach out to your neighbors with specific requests, and you're more likely to get a response.
Or you
And
might have to meet with them one by one. If there's also busy at different times, getting them all together at the same time might be really difficult.
Yeah, this problem, it wasn't all that. It was how I just was too weak to think about it. It was really weird. But I'm probably 75% back. And but yeah, I'm going to we have a ton of grapes, which is the question that we have. They're really tiny little purple grapes, and they're tasty. But does anyone have any idea of what to do with those tiny grapes? We don't have to talk about it now, but that's what I feel is really important to know one-on-one here. And then we've been talking about other issues in the world with some of them, so they're aware of where we are on other issues. So that's been really handy too.
yeah. Well, Lisa is saying, Mona, that you should make wine with those grapes. You can crush them up. You can look up a recipe on how to make wine. You just ferment it. Just make sure when you ferment it, you've got something to release it properly so that the air can get out. A steam juicer, Robin is saying, is great for getting juice out of grapes, and then you can can it. A steam juicer. Never heard
These are
of a
wild.
steam
These are
juicer.
wild grapes from my backyard,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, or preserves. Jill is saying you can make preserves out of them.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm almost like, I made wine for about 20 years, and I'm really more in the communicative stage of trying to make it happen, but I'm not that much into. I'm preserving plums, and we did share what we're getting. We're freezing right now, preserving,
Okay.
and we have all the canned good things.
Well,
So-
I'm sure you can look up some recipes for grapes that are not
Right.
wine. There's tons of things out. There's preserves, but we're going to move on to
Yeah,
Anne
move
now.
on. Anyway,
Anne.
I just wanted to check in. and-
Thank you very much for sharing that. We're so excited that you started the Neighborhood Food Network in your town and on your street, and you got 10 people involved, and that's going to just keep expanding. And those are people that you never probably would have connected with before. And so we're really, really proud of you, especially that you did this. And even though you weren't feeling well, you continued.
Thank you, Zen.
Yeah. Thank you, Mona. Appreciate it. We hope you continue to feel better.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So Anne, can we putting it onto the screen in Neighborhood Food Network, your page that you've been working on?
I started a page tonight. I'm almost finished with it, but I've had a lot of cabbage come in. And so I did a page up on one of the easiest way to preserve your cabbage. This purple jar is my jar that I just finished. It's one of the oldest forms of food preservation, goes back about 10,000 years. And I have some links at the bottom here that I'm going to be adding on to, but I do have a recipe like here. It's not actually formatted as a recipe because it's kind of more take the cabbage, slice it up, put some salt on it, non-iodized salt.
One whole head of cabbage? Do you slice
So
it up with a food processor? I want people to know exactly what to do.
you
step
can
by
slice
step.
it up with a food processor, but what I did was I take the cabbage, I cut it in half, cut the core out, and the ratio of salt, and I have this in the article here, the ratio of salt is 2% salt by weight. So about a quart jar needs about 800 grams of cabbage, and depending on the head, how large your head, and you can use white cabbage or green cabbage or purple cabbage, and you can add carrots if you want. But I just gave the simple recipe for this purple cabbage, and
So people cut the cabbage in half.
then they slice it up. You can do it in a food processor, but I just sliced it with a knife. I find it
So
relaxing.
you slice it thinly with a knife.
You
and
can
then
slice it as thick or thin as you want. You can have strips. You can cut it into chunks, however you want. And then you put it in the bowl and you pour the salt on top, and then you start massaging it. And what the salt
Okay.
does, the salt pulls the liquid out of the cabbage. So as you're massaging it, you're going to start seeing this brine forming at the bottom of your bowl. And
Now
that's
you
what
can
you
massage it
want.
with your hands. Some
Yeah.
people have a masher. It's like a piece
Yes.
of wood, and you can just pound it. So you could give a bowl of cabbage to your kids and just tell them to go to town and pound it, or inside of a big jar, right? And they just pound it. And as you pound and pound and pound, it pounds the juices out, and the salt mixes with the juices. And then you put it in these quart jars, right? And you push
Right.
it down so that the liquid is above the cabbage.
Yeah, so as you can see here, she's taking her fist, and you can use I forget what the name of it is. You can use a wooden tool, and you can push it down to make sure that the cabbage is below the brine, and then you take cabbage leaves. Like when you get the cabbage in the house at the beginning, you take off a couple of the outer leaves, and if they're not too torn up, you can just save them and use those to keep the cabbage underneath the brine. So while it's fermenting, you want to make sure all the cabbage is below the level of the brine. Some people use glass weights. Some people will take a Ziploc bag and fill it with water and put that on top. And what you'll do is you'll set it off and you put a lid on it, and you can set it off in your kitchen out of sunlight and just let it sit there. Now, if you have a screw top lid on it, every day you need to come and burp it, because once the beneficial bacteria start consuming the sugars that are in this brine, they're going to start emitting gas. And this is
So every day you have to burp it?
every day.
Oh, that's what I did wrong.
So I have a special fermenting lid that's got like an airlock thing on it that automatically lets it out.
Do you have pictures of the airlock lids, or the one? It's kind of like it has a nipple on the top with a little hole at the top.
I'll be adding that, and I'll be adding links to it. I also have these little glass weights that I put in the jar, so it just makes it easier. I just got this like little fermenting kit, but in order to keep things cost effective, you really don't need any of that stuff. And then by the 5th or 6th day, you can smell it. It should start smelling sour, and then you can take a taste of it. And if it's got the sourness you want, then you put the lid on and put it in the fridge. And you should eat it up within 6 months, but the point is that you should eat some every single day. It's rich in as I said here, rich in vitamins and minerals, vitamin C, vitamin K, copper, potassium, iron, and manganese. It contains enzymes that help break down foods into smaller molecules, making your food more bioavailable. And that's one of the things that some people don't understand, that if your microbiome is not working the way it should be, you're not digesting all your food and you're not getting that nutrition. So, and then Zen, what was my mind went blank, and it's still going blank on with getting glyphosate out with
Oh, okay. So there is a bacteria, a good bacteria called Acetobacter that's found in sauerkraut and apple cider vinegar and kombucha. And this Acetobacter was found back in, I think, either 2015 or 18 in South Africa in a study. Not in South Africa, but it was found in a study from South Africa to break up glyphosate into non-toxic components in the soil. So this bacteria interacted with other bacteria in the soil and other, and the glyphosate, and it broke apart the glyphosate into non-toxic components. And this is amazing and awesome because glyphosate has a very long, shelf life or, presence in the soil, and it is extremely harmful, as we all know. And so to break it up is a very big deal. Now, we don't know that glyphosate does, that Acetobacter does that in the human gut, right? We don't know that.
But as it says here, that it helps break down foods into smaller molecules, I'm assuming it would do the same thing for glyphosate. Basically, it's breaking it down into its elements so that your body
because
can-
we know what happens in the soil happens in the gut in most other cases. We advise that it would be a good idea to consume sauerkraut, kombucha, or apple cider vinegar every day, because we are all being exposed to glyphosate. Even if you're eating organic food, there's a chance that it will be contaminated because of the either fraud or the the just drift from rain and the water supply. So somebody's saying glyphosate is a heavy metal type on. No, it's not a heavy metal. It's a chemical.
It chelates.
That it chelates, so it grabs onto the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches, and it can transport them or move them around or make them unavailable. So it's very problematic with vitamins and minerals. Okay, but
so with the sauerkraut, and it's so easy to make, and like I said, it'll last for 6 months in your fridge. Just take a couple spoonfuls a day. It goes great on sandwiches. I mean, you can just literally open up the jar and start eating some just every day, and it's super easy to make, super inexpensive, and
there's about 1 trillion good bacteria in every tablespoon of fermented sauerkraut or fermented.
And it's an anaerobic process, which means this is why you have to keep everything submerged underneath the brine. It's not using oxygen. So basically it'll kill off any bad bacteria. So all that's left is the good microorganisms. And so sauerkraut is a great thing to make and super easy. Like I said, this is the jar that I just made. It's in my fridge. I had some today.
Yep. And Annie, Todd, yes, it can work with beets. You can also, I would look up the recipe for kvass, Kvass. It's a Russian beet drink that's highly nutrient dense and has, so many good properties. Somebody had a question, their hand up. Rachel, she went away for a second. Wait till you get back. Okay.
I wanted to show a book too. So
sure, show us a book.
So Nourishing Traditions, Sally Fallon. She
has
the recipe for all these kind of, and the simple recipes for how to make sauerkraut. She's like one of the originals of that. She's
great.
So anyway, and then I had just a practical question. So 2% of the weight of the cabbage sounds way too complicated for me. Is there some other
so it's about, for about a quart, it's about a tablespoon.
Because I know my son makes it all the time and he doesn't weigh it. So, okay. So could we put that in the recipe too, for those of us who don't want to go out?
It's too complicated to say percentages. Most people are not weighing the grams of their cabbage, and they're not. So we need some sort of estimate about how to do that.
Okay, I can add that in.
Yeah.
My son also made pickles with cucumbers from this same book too.
So yeah, you can ferment pickles. I have not had much success fermenting pickles, and you can also, pickling is a whole different process. So when you're pickling, you're putting a vinegar brine in, and you're not getting any of the beneficial microorganisms. If it's a
whey brine, and it's something to do with Sally Fallon too.
Oh, okay.
So
So
anyway,
I did contact somebody today, and she suggested that I reach out to this woman who's got something called the Fermenting Homestead. So I will be reaching out to her and seeing if I can get her on the show.
the Weston Price, you know, that whole,
Yes, and speaking of Western Price, they have a conference coming up October 23rd and 24th in Knoxville, Tennessee, or 22nd and 23rd. And then the Children's Health Defense Conference is the 23rd and 24th in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's the same weekend and I think the same location. So if you want to come out to the Weston A. Price Foundation, you will get the bonus of the Children's Health Defense Conference
I could
as
go to
well.
both at once.
Yes, in Knoxville, Tennessee. So that's October, yes, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in Knoxville, Tennessee. So Frankie said something important here. When your ferments get below half of the jar space, transfer the contents to a smaller container. Air is not your friend when it comes to ferments. Very good point. That's why they start looking funky after a while.
Frankie is always got the best information.
Yeah, she does. I wish she could come on video and talk. Okay, salted cabbage should taste as salty as potato chips. Yes, yep.
Yeah,
And-
it'll taste sour.
Yep, sour and salty.
And you can make it as if you don't like it as sour, you can put it in the fridge before. If you want it more sour, leave it out on your counter for a few more days and let the bacteria do its thing. And it's all up to you. It's a very forgiving recipe, and you can add. Some people add apples and juniper berries and caraway seeds, and all kinds of things.
Caraway seeds is great.
So
Yeah, fennel seeds as well. Also, if you're going to ferment pickles, I know we didn't really talk about that, and you have an oak tree in your yard, take a leaf from the oak tree and put it in your pickle jar, and it will make them more snappy.
oh yes, and grape leaves.
the
It's the
oak leaf.
tannins. It's the tannins
the
and the
tannins.
leaves that will make them crispy.
Yep.
Wild.
Yes, there's all kinds of
there's-
things fermenting.
So there's one other thing. Is Mark still on? He came on and then he went off.
I'm on. I'm
Okay.
running my weed zapper.
Wow, look at you, Mark.
We love it. We love a man who can multitask. Okay,
Great.
so now I want to share a screen. 2 weeks ago, we had Mark Doodle on, and most of you, I think, were here, and we were talking about putting in cover crops. And Mark graciously offered to make a crimping tool for all of us, anybody who would like it. And so here's a picture of this is the best picture I could find of a woman. It's not in a garden bed, but she's using this crimping tool to crimp down the grass. Now, we were talking about cereal rye, and that's what I bought. So I planted one bed with that, and I plan on planting more as I pull out my other crops. But so I have a form here. If somebody would like one of these tools, you can fill out this form, and we will get this information to Mark, and then he'll figure out the shipping costs. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on the headlands turning the tractor around. Yes, but one of the caveats is they have to plant their cereal rye now or
Okay.
in the next 30 days, probably.
Okay.
For this
So-
to because it's a biennial, right? So you plant it now, and then it goes through a vernalization process, which is a cold stratification process, and then next spring it will transfer into a reproduction phase where the rye gets, hip high, chest high, and then once it has senesced or pollinated, then you can go ahead and crimp it with this simple tool using your own weight. You can put a crimp in the rye, and if you do 3 crimps per plant, Iowa State University has determined that's sufficient to kill the rye. And then you have this beautiful layer of mulch. The rye has some allegopathic effect like a herbicide that prevents small seeded weeds from growing. And a beautiful mulch, and it's no-till organics, right? So
And you're building up the soil. So like I said, I planted one bed and I'm getting ready to plant some other beds. So, but
So we're going to add to this page. Anne, could you please add to this page, like why you would want to crimper? So let's put at the top, the benefits of planting cereal rye and a little bit about the regenerative ag, aspect of creating a living
Okay.
mulch. And then when you do that, you're going to want a crimping tool. So then, right, we would have the,
And they have to
crimping
plant
tool.
it real soon, like before the end of October.
Yes, so we
well,
need to put that
it
on the
depends.
page.
It depends where everybody is. Up here in Wisconsin, we would like it in the ground by say the 10th of October at the latest. But as you go down further south, you can back that date off.
Mark, can you stay on for a few more minutes in case people have questions?
Yeah, I can answer anything about maybe cereal rye. You bet. Absolutely.
Sweet. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you
Feel
next week.
better
Take
soon.
care. Thank
you
you.
feel better, Zen.
better. Okay, so I in the last time, so I have the link on this page to the call that Mark was talking about, the cover cropping, if anybody wants to go back. I also had sent out an email with links. I bought I think it was 15 pounds of organic cereal rye from True Leaf Market. And I will see if I can pull it up now, and I can resend out the link. Oh wow, right on their homepage it says shop fall cover crops. And it just came in a box and I cut it open and I scooped some out and I sprinkled some over my bed. Fairly heavy, right, Mark? He told me I'll have to go back. You had told me exactly how much. I'll go back and
Yeah, it's probably not as much as you think. Most areas are so small, that it doesn't take much seed at all. But we would probably like 20 to 30 live rye plants per square foot. Might be a good place to start. I can't remember all the math. It's 180 pounds per acre, and there's 43,560 square feet in an acre. So if you just divide those two, you get the number of pounds per square foot, measure off your garden, and then multiply it times that factor. And that's the number of pounds of seed you need total for your garden area. And I would urge people not to do their whole garden. If you got an area that, you'd like to take a break from weeding from, maybe a quarter, a third, or half of your garden, plant it off to cereal rye. And you got two options come spring. If it looks really good and that it's growing rapidly, you can leave it and then crimp it, or you could always till it in as a green manure cover crop. So there are options in the spring.
so this bed that I did it in was not growing vegetables well at all. That's why I ended up pulling out what was in there, because it wasn't growing. And so I'm very interested that the green manure might be an option, so I can
Yep.
build up the soil.
Yeah. And typically rye will take some nitrogen to really get tall and be aggressive. So, don't be afraid to plant your rye and then, top dress it with manure, or till the manure in and then plant the rye. So all that would be great.
I did add a layer I did rebuild the whole bed, and I did add some compost before I
Yeah,
did seed.
compost is really nice too, because it's a steady feed of nitrogen. Where manure is a lot more nitrogen all at once, a lot of times. So compost is great also, certainly, or mix them together, anything you can do is going to help.
So
And
these,
it
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say these seeds, when I looked at them, they look like my wheat berries that I get for flour. I was like, oh, can I grind these up and make bread?
Yeah, absolutely you can. You bet. Since you bought organic, you can grind it up and yeah, make
I'm assuming
rye
it's
rye bread.
low gluten, because, so I would make a more of a rye type bread.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So, yeah, they have all kinds of sizes here. If you guys see, am I still sharing my screen?
I see you.
Okay,
I don't see your screen, but
so you could get a 5-pound can for $18.56. So it's not too horrible. I got 35 pounds. I guess,
and you can also plant it in the spring, but just realize that if it doesn't vernalize, it will stay like lawn grass. So it'll stay short, but you could use it as a green manure even in the spring. So don't worry about having cereal rye on hand year round. There's a bunch of different uses for it.
oh,
So
and one thing I did do is after I put all the seed out and I just really lightly kind of raked it in, I covered it with remay because I figured I have so many birds in my garden. I figured if I don't cover this up, they're gonna
I
come and
see.
eat all the seed.
Yeah, they could maybe eat some, but that's the advantage too of planting plenty, so you bet.
All right, well, thank you, Mark. Does anybody else have any questions?
And then the tool is just a simple 2x4 with an angle iron bolted to the bottom of it. And then there's a string, and the string can either be long enough to go around your neck or just long enough for you to pick the 2x4 up so you don't have to bend over. And then you put your weight on it, and it makes a crimp similar to taking like a straw for a drink, bending it in half. That's a crimp. And you do 3 of those in the length of the cereal rye plant, and you should effectively be able to kill it. Then there's a beautiful mulch now that you've laid down there. And I would suggest coming in with live transplants, spread the mulch apart, dig in there with a little trowel, plant your plant, bring the rye mulch up on top, back around your plant, and you'll have very little weeding to do.
I mean, I have so many little, I wonder if that'll help because I had so many little trees coming up. I must have pulled 500 little trees out of my thing this year from the fall last year.
Sure.
So I'm hoping that'll help. We had a question up here. Is this rye planting appropriate for small city garden patches? Is it okay for any kind of garden patch, isn't it?
Well, it's okay for any kind of garden patch, but remember, it's going to get 4 or 5 feet tall. So
Okay.
if you're worried about it hanging over a sidewalk or something, that might, maybe you want to put it in the center of an area so it doesn't fall down and be in the way of like the sidewalk. But certainly, once you crimp that, you can pull it whatever direction you want and crimp it down. And then at that point, it's only, half an inch to an inch off the soil surface. And
If you
it
don't
gives
like
you a
your
nice,
neighbors, if you don't like
well,
your
it
neighbors,
gives
you
you,
can plant
it gives
between
you,
them.
yeah, it gives you a nice planting surface, and it also prevents tracking mud around. So you have this mat on top of the soil surface, and it could rain and you could still walk out onto your garden and not get your shoes muddy.
That's a bonus.
Wow. So is it basically you could use it like some people use like straw as a mulch?
Absolutely. That's what this is. It's a living mulch, correct, that we terminate. It'd be the same thing as taking rye straw and, well, not quite all the same because, the other thing is when you kill the rye off, the microbes go after the root system of the cereal rye that was growing, and that becomes the food for your plant. And then the brown carbon that was green that turns brown, that slowly decays, but it's in a real slow process over armoring your soil. So it armors your soil, and then that will decay with time. That also lets all the mycorrhizal grow out, and kind of backs off all the tillage. So your garden goes from being bacterially dominated to more of a balance with a fungal component, which is very healthy for the soil, regenerating the soil.
And so basically, if you only, because we only have a little city garden, right, with various small beds. But if you,
Yes.
even if you grew like 2 of the beds with this 4 feet, 5 feet tall rye thing, then you could cut that into pieces and put it wherever you want.
You could do that too. Yeah. But just realize if you cut it before the rye has flowered or pollinated its own seed, the rye plant is going to say, hey, I haven't set any seed yet, so I'm going to send up another stalk. If you cut it after it is pollinated, it sends a hormone signal into the root saying, hey, I've set my seed, I'm good. We can just, decay into the earth and recycle ourselves. So it's really important when you cut it as to what happens next.
So we'll definitely have to talk about that again in the spring.
Yeah.
Sure.
Also, can you explain about the biannual part? Because does that mean we have to wait 2 years before we can really use it?
No, so the biennial starts this fall, right now. It germinates, and a seed has to germinate and ideally get green and be above the soil surface, but not always. And then when you go through a cold snap, 32 degrees or lower for a period of time, that vernalizes that plant.
Right.
And by vernalizing the plant, it allows it then in the spring to go in a reproductive mode and shoot a stem up and put a seed head on. If it doesn't vernalize, that will stay short like lawn grass because it didn't get the signal that it was supposed to reproduce. And by the way, the second year it would then die, right? It would do nothing. So the biennial means it usually starts in the fall and then carries into the next year.
Sounds like a win-win situation all around. I'm pretty excited about.
Well,
trying.
if you're tired of weeding and you want to rehabilitate parts of your garden, I think it's a great option. If you have your weeds under control and you're happy with your fertility and you have beautiful soil, and you like weeding, it's probably doesn't matter much. But if you want to take the labor out, this is one way to do it. Now, I suggest planting live transplants because what I said earlier was cereal rye inhibits small seeded weeds. Well, it would also inhibit small seeded garden seeds, right? So things like beans would work very well. Anything larger seeded would work very well, but something very, very tiny, like, I don't know, maybe some of the lettuces, certainly carrots, might not work quite as well because they might be affected by the property in the rye and prevent the germination of your garden seeds. So
So
that's why
Mark,
I'd really like to see a live plant. All of the squashes work extremely well, because the runners, you don't have to weed that area. Your runners just run out over the top of the rye. And it also provides an insulation barrier for your pumpkins and your squash such that they don't rot against the soil surface
That would be-
because you have this nice layer of mulch.
So Frankie's had bought some a couple of years ago, some cereal rye. She wants to know how long would that be good for?
Roll it up in a paper towel, put it by your kitchen window, wet it every day, and see.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
so
I know
just
that the
roll it up
wheat
in a paper
berries-
towel and see if it's any good anymore. And if it doesn't germ within a week, you know, it's probably not any good. Assuming, you know, you give it the right temperature and you keep it moist.
And where would you buy live transplants, or is that impossible?
Well, no, just like like in the spring, everybody's selling live plants at the farmer's market, live tomatoes, live. Or you can start them yourself. I mean, I start mine in my laundry room turns into a grow room. And I grow all my plants live. The only ones I start from seed actually are beans and carrots. And so I wouldn't be doing carrots in that bed because
Yeah,
Mark-
and I'm not talking about transplanting cereal rye either. I'm talking about
Oh,
anything you want to grow in your garden.
now
So the rye is going to be from seed.
I'm
Oh, okay.
I get it now.
Then Frank, and then there's another question. Our community garden in Michigan is tilled before we plant in late May. Would it help if I plant this rye now? Yes, it would.
Yeah, you can till it in as a green manure crop in the spring. Absolutely. Right. And it'll protect it all winter. It'll protect it from erosion, raindrop impact, and all of those things. And if you till the rye in, you'll still get some of the herbicidal effect, the oligopathic effect that rye gives off, but it'll be greatly diluted because it's tilled into the soil, right? And if you're gonna till it in, you probably don't want to let it get to 5-6 feet because it's gonna wrap up in your tiller. You probably wanna, when it gets knee high, ankle high to knee high, you wanna till it in as a green manure when it's succulent and doesn't, you know, have a lot of the rigidness to the stalk.
Okay.
Now,
Thanks.
if all else fails, you can also mow it off with a lawnmower and then till it in, right? So if it gets too big on you, there are still options, right? You can mow it finely and then rototill that in. Some people prefer mowing, but that makes the mulch disappear quickly because we've cut it up into little small sizes that then the microbes are able to decay it more quickly compared to a long piece of straw sitting on top of the ground.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I'm very excited about this. So I wanted to
Really?
share a picture with everybody when we were talking about things you can plant in July, if you remember back that far. Here's my bed that I planted at the end of July. This is broccoli and carrots.
Looks-
Yeah, so I'm just now starting to get heads of broccoli. I found one little one yesterday. I was very excited. And the carrots are like just unbelievable. I can't wait to harvest them. But so yeah, this is
Because carrots seem like they're really hard to grow.
well, this is a brand new bed that I built. I was given this wood, and so I built it double deep, and I put like a hugelkultur underneath. I put some branches and some compost, some food scraps from my kitchen. I just put all kinds of stuff in the bottom with some wood chips, and then I put in some grass clippings, and I put layers of layers of soil about, I don't know, 8 inches deep, and then I planted these. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. Everything seems very happy.
And I don't think those coli crops will die until, if I remember right, it's 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So you're going to go way, way, way into probably November.
I hope so. I think I took a picture of one of the, and then there's some pictures else I wanted to show. My next door neighbor took apart her picnic table and took the benches off and built because she can't bend over. So we helped her build this little raised bed, and I brought her over some lettuce seeds, and I took this today. So she's pretty excited about that.
Are you gonna dig your carrots, or are you gonna mulch them with straw and dig them through the winter?
I don't know. I have a lot. Will they last through the winter if I mulch
might
them real
want-
good?
Yeah, you might want to try some of each. Dig some of them and take them in the house, and then try the rest of them digging. If you put your mulch on deep enough, your ground won't freeze over the winter.
Okay, even if it's a raised bed. I have some in the ground, but these are kind of in a raised bed.
Yeah, the edges might freeze, but I can't believe the mass in the center would freeze.
I forgot some carrots that I didn't dig up one year, and then the next year they started growing up all over the place. And I know they're biennial, so I was like, great, I'll just let them go to they'll go to seed, right? And I can save the seeds. Or I can eat them.
Certainly that's true for the cereal rye. I'm not sure about the carrots.
And this is something I planted about a month ago or so. This was some lettuce seeds I threw down in a bed, and that did really well. And here's what some of my lettuce plants that I let bolt, and I will be going out and getting a shopping bag and cutting this off and putting in the shopping bag and saving the seed for that. So that's how some ways you can, so all these right now are seeds that are ready to do their thing. And this is my neighbor who I have the raised bed. I just taught her how to start canning, and now I've turned her into a monster. So oh, and this is another thing I want to tell people. Even if you don't think you have enough food to put up, I'm telling you right now, the farmers markets are a great place to go get bushels of food at decent prices. I just bought a bushel of apples and plan on making a lot of applesauce, and you can get tomatoes that aren't beautiful, and they'll sell them cheap, and you can can them and put up food for the winter. So those are some. Oh, this is a rogue plant, and I guess this is a pumpkin. It shot up through my wood chips in my garden, and I let it go, and now I have a pumpkin. I don't know where it came from, but it's kind of cute, huh? Does anybody else have anything they want to say, or we can end the call?
I have a,
And I will be sending all this information out either tomorrow or the next day when I do the thing. Yeah, Rachel?
I have a serious question that is off the subject. We have a super turkey problem. Like
Okay.
8 turkeys in my backyard almost daily. And so
Mark?
they ate all the kale.
Thanksgiving is really close.
I can't eat 8 turkeys. And
Yeah, but you could freeze them.
I don't shoot a gun, and I don't know how to take the feathers out. My grandmother didn't teach me.
I don't know. Do you have any neighbors? My next door neighbor has a bow and arrow, and when I had my groundhog was in the yard, I called him up. I go, the groundhog's in the yard. Go get your bow and arrow. And literally came over with his bow and arrow. But as soon as the groundhog saw him, he went underneath my shed, which.
Yeah, actually, our community garden has a groundhog program. They asked me to ask you that one too.
Well, I do not like poisoning animals, because what happens when you poison an animal is they will leave the area. Like, I don't know if the poison works to make them super thirsty or what. They end up leaving the area, and then other predators will eat them, and it'll poison them. So I do not agree. So I do not agree with poison. Live traps, I've heard. As far as the wild turkeys, I don't know, when's hunting season?
Electric fence. Go to premier.com, I think it is, and you can get electric fence of different heights. They even have solar panels that you can plug the fence into. That's an option. It might be a little more expensive, but I think electric fence is fairly decent at some of those critters. Um,
I'm putting the
they-
link in here.
But wait, so then like. if-
maybe it's called Premier One fencing, I
I
think.
put the link in. It's premieronesupplies.com, and I have the link directly to the electric fencing page.
But then, like anybody walking in my backyard would have to worry about being electrocuted.
Well, you can turn it off. I'm assuming they'll have a switch for you to turn it off.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just a zap, but you're gonna feel it. You'll know it, right? So, but nobody will be electrocuted.
They have electric netting, which might work great for you. You get to put it right around your beds. So yeah, take a look at this website. And I see the solar panels here. Yeah, so this looks like a really great site.
When we grew our turkeys, that's how we kept them in, was with an electric fence, just like that white electric fence. And then there's a stainless steel wire woven in the white plastic poly fence. And that's what transmits the electrical current throughout the fence. So it's really friendly to work with. They have push-in stakes that are really easy to move it around and do anything you want. And you just put two of the posts next to each other, and then you can separate it really easy and walk right in. So it's pretty good stuff. We really liked it.
So you're saying the fencing, not the what was it that you found, Ann?
Netting.
The netting has built-in posts that are PVC in it, and then a steel fork in the bottom, and you just simply step that in with your foot.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've got the page up here right now.
Yeah, you can put that fence up in literally 4 or 5 minutes. So, and they might have different heights too, so that maybe if you just have groundhogs or whatever other critter problems, you could put in a fence that's only maybe knee high, something you could step over and not have to worry about turning it on and off, depending on what your problems are. Turkeys might jump that though. I'm not sure. You might want a hip high fence for turkeys.
The turkeys got on the very top of like our beam and very high. They got up about 8 feet.
Wow.
I guess they flew.
Well, maybe they just need to be zapped 1 or twice and then they'll go elsewhere.
It's so weird because we didn't used to have turkeys and now we have.
I've seen a lot of turkeys this year.
And they don't eat your
Well,
food?
I haven't seen any in my garden.
Mhm.
And I have a little wooded area next to my garden, but it's very small. And I have never seen, everybody says, have you ever seen deer? And I'm like, no. But a couple years ago, I had one turkey in my garden and she had 2 babies with her. So I just let her alone. And she ate some stuff. But not enough. I was willing to share.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
But-
It's been going on for a few years, but it got much worse.
I also have 2 cats. So that might have helped.
Could you also take dog manure or something and spread it on the corner? Are there certain the scent of certain animals that might keep the turkeys away? I would think dogs and turkeys wouldn't mix very well.
Uh-huh.
Maybe just male urine. Do you have a man you could have go out there and pee around the garden at night?
Well, yeah, actually, I do a yard share, and he's so I could ask him.
I used to make my husband, when I was married, I used to make him go outside every night before bed and pee around my tiny little garden. And he just thought it was ridiculous, but he did it.
Did it work?
Well, our marriage ended. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I just found a website and I'm going to post it down here, how to keep wild turkeys out of your yard. I haven't read it, but it's by Poultry Lane. Mothballs can deter turkeys because it contains dangerous chemicals that can irritate their lungs, skin. Well, I wouldn't be able to use those.
Oh, then we kill the poor turkeys.
Make noises, unusual objects, spray them with water, use flash tape. Yeah, just get the electric fencing. It sounds much easier. Oh, and I also wanted to show everybody my birthday was on the 16th, and my brother bought me this, and I'm very excited. It's a trail camera. I'm putting it up in my garden.
What's that gonna do?
It's going to show me who's going in my garden at night.
Did
Oh,
you see the woodchucks made the national news? So
No,
some guy had woodchucks eating his garden. So now it blew up on like Facebook, like to 30 million people or something. And so now he's building miniature picnic tables and a whole set, and he feeds them. The mother woodchuck came up now too. The babies were eating right in front of the cameras. You should check out Facebook and woodchuck videos. He like, I don't know if he even has to work anymore because of his videos. So put your trail cam up for your woodchucks and you can probably become the Wisconsin sensation on Facebook.
woodchuck videos. Yeah, there's a bunch. I don't see any recent ones. Well, I'll have to look at that. There was a article, I don't know if anybody read it, about a guy in Michigan who was the government came in and told him that he was modifying his property, his waterway, and he had to tell the people to stop, and it was actually the beavers. So he wrote a letter, and it was I just read it like a few months ago. This is probably 20 years old, and it is so funny. The letter that this guy wrote. Yeah, it's pretty funny, but yes, we have to learn to live in harmony with our wildlife friends, or make it so they want to go live somewhere else. All right, well, I guess that's it for tonight, everybody. So
yeah, and thanks, Mark and Anne, for your great explanations.
yeah, I think I'm gonna be transcribing what Mark was saying
Fantastic.
in
yeah.
the on the web page I just created, so we have all his wonderful knowledge, and I don't have to keep asking him, because I already told him when he's going to send me a crimper to test. So I'm going to take lots of videos, and we'll do lots of pictures, and so that we can put that on there and everybody will see how to do it this spring. But I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, we have a, inner city community garden here, and so the same guy that does the yard share for my yard, he's part of that, and I think they'd be really interested in the cereal rye.
Great.
But community gardens can't belong to the neighborhood, to this project, right?
I don't know. I'll have to ask Sen what her vision is. I'm just kind of like,
Yeah, ask
I'm like
her.
her second in command, but I pretty much still follow her lead and argue with her on occasion. She originally thought that this USDA thing might be a good thing, and I said no. I'm sorry, but they are guilty until proven innocent. Our government has not done anything for the people lately that I can see. So, all right, well,
You can trick them into doing something for a while. Tell us no good.
well, my fear is that they're gonna do what they did with the raw milk farmers, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna say, listen, we don't want you growing your own food. We want you dependent on the government.
Right.
I haven't been to the grocery store. I don't even remember the last time I was at the grocery store.
Well, you're amazing.
It's pretty awesome, but I'm gonna have to soon. I can't grow bananas or oranges. I don't live in Florida, so All right,
Will the-
everybody.
Will the link to this video, I wasn't able to make the earlier part of the phone call. Will that be posted?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so the Moms Across America one, where I don't know if you heard about, this USDA community community garden, they want everybody to register their gardens, and we were talking about that in the Moms Across America part. And we talked a little bit about it on here, but we'll send you the links to both of them. But yeah, I'll be working on those tomorrow as soon as I can download them. But yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
And we can
Bye.
buy dry beans from you, Mark. Is that right?
No, I will send you the link. I got mine at True Leaf Market.
Okay.
Mark doesn't sell them.
Okay.
And it wasn't too bad, but I'll post the link again. I did send it out on a previous email, but I'm gonna send it again tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye.